Perfect. And if we could get started with our icebreaker. So we're going to do our in the chat name, organization, preferred pronouns, and then what's one thing your hub or team accomplished in this year that you feel proud of? I feel like you guys have a lot to be proud of, so I'm excited to read these. Let's see. Vanessa Marion Polk, she, her. We worked really hard on our balance, a scorecard. Ooh, it's going too quick now. Scorecard and are infusing them into our workflows to make our purpose more driven throughout our work in the new year. And then Renee, Southern Oregon Early Learning Hub, we created new partnerships with local food security partners. Those are great. Shira from Four Rivers, I'm really proud of my team for completing our end of year report with excellence. That's a good one, Shira. Thank you. Rod, Eastern Oregon, expanding our number of programs participating in community-wide implementation of the pyramid model. That's great. And then Laura from Blue Mountain, hosting our fall summit and having over 400 attendees. Christy Collins, Early Learning Hub of Lynn Benton Lincoln, asset mapping in 16 rural communities. Oh, those are great. I'll read a couple more. Chris Coombs from Lane County. It was a big lift, but we are finally understanding preschool promise. New team, new software all at once. We have filled over 530 slots. Great job, Chris. Jen from Yamhill. We co-hosted a cross-sector training with our behavioral health department. It was really well received. Oh, those are great. Thank you all so much for sharing. Those are wonderful. Let's see. With that, I think I'm gonna hand it over to Nancy and she'll walk us through our agenda. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here.
Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you here. We are going to start out with the Elmo team, and they're going to walk you through the map and they have some really interesting activities to help folks get into the data. And then after that, Maria and I are going to share a little bit of information about deliverables coming up, and then we'll have a wrap up. So I'll just pass it along to the Elmo team.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. Itzel going to get the slides up, but while that's happening, I will introduce myself. Hi, I'm Lizzie Tremaine, she, they pronouns. I'm a research analyst with the Research Analysis and Data Office, the RAD office at Delk. Um, and Itzel Fernandez is my colleague and same office. And the two of us have been working on getting the the data within the Early Learning Map of Oregon, ELMO, um, updated for 2025. So that's really exciting. Itzel, are you able to get the slides going? There we go. Great. Um, so why don't you hop to the next slide and we'll walk through the game plan for our time with you today. So there we go. So we're going to start with an overview of the background and the purpose of the Early Learning Map of Oregon, ELMO, and then we'll do a walkthrough of the different sections of the tool. And then we're going to walk through a couple of activities that are designed to help show off ways that you might be able to use Elmo within your work. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So, a little bit of background. I'll start by going off script and talk about the origin of Elmo. So, um, Elmo was built as part of Oregon's Preschool Development Grant Needs Assessment. It was built in partnership with Portland State University, um, and January Advisors, the people who are, behind the design of the tool itself. And it was something that was really built out of the needs assessment activity where there was an assessment of so much information about Oregon. And the report itself was hundreds of pages long. And the idea came into being of an interactive map as a more digestible, more relevant, more user-friendly way to navigate the information about our state. So Elmo was born, and it is really designed for you all. It's designed for state and regional partners like Early Learning Hubs, CCR&Rs, DELC, and other early learning partners like schools, advocacy groups, maybe other agencies and organizations. It's designed for to support planning and understanding the communities that organizations serve. Um, Elmo can answer a number of questions by looking at community, family, and child risk and resilience characteristics. It can explore childcare workforce characteristics. It can be a tool to help identify communities with varying levels of needs and access to services. And it can also help folks understand broad patterns of availability of childcare. So the current data that we're going to be looking at today in the sandbox version, not yet public facing, but sandbox version of Elmo, those are primarily from 2022 to 2024, sort of the most recent round of data that are available. Next slide. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to steal the screen from Itzel in just a moment and look at the different sections of Elmo with you. So I'm going to talk about the overall structure of the map. So what domains of information are available, the way that you can look at information by percentage or by raw numbers, by geography. And then I'll take a look at some of the other functions in the map, as well as like being able to look at some data by analysis question, and the way you're able to download information on the map. And I reminded myself today when I was practicing that Elmo is a really cool and also complicated tool, and there's a lot of different ways to use it. So I'm reminding myself to slow down and take my time with it. And let me go ahead and request to steal the screen from Itzel. There we go. Amazing. And I'm going to make sure that that is the screen that I want to share. Okay. So let me reconnect to Elmo. And try to move this bar out of the way. There we go. Sorry, I didn't actually press the button. Okay. So when you go to the Elmo link, and you'll see that I'm using the sandbox link that we will share. Itzel, would you mind sharing the sandbox link in the chat with folks? So the sandbox link is the sort of the working version of Elmo. The public version doesn't have the updated information yet, the updated data, and Itzel and I are finalizing everything with January Advisors, but you're able to look at the most recent version. when you load Elmo, there's a landing page with some information about Elmo. So, who is this map for? We talk about early learning partners being the primary audience for this. Um, it talks about what kind of information can be mapped, and we have different high-level categories of information like community and family characteristics, early learning and childcare program characteristics, workforce, school readiness, and school success indicators, third grade. I'm going to update that because we don't have this, the OKA anymore, at least not an updated version because that has been sundowned and is now being redesigned. We have some information about community risk and resiliency factors. There is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but there is information about what it's not intended to do. So it's not intended to help families find care and get resources for care. This is really a system partner focused tool, whereas like 211, Find Childcare Oregon, those have more family oriented resources available. And then, since you all sent your questions ahead of time, this is one. This is where you can send an email to our RAD office to get, if you have questions about Elmo. One of the folks asked a question about who do we contact? It has an outdated email. We've got it fixed in the sandbox version. Okay, now for the fun part. I'm going to go up to the map tab and we can start doing a high-level walkthrough of the different sections of Elmo. So at the top, that is where you can find and select different measures that you want to look at on the map. So when we go to select a category, you can see that there are those high-level categories that I mentioned: community and family characteristics, early care and education program types, early care education workforce information, risk and resiliency, school readiness, and early success indicators. And then once you've selected one of those categories, you can choose a specific measure, a specific indicator that you want to look at. And in some of them, there are a lot. So I encourage you to take your time and to read through each of the options that are available to you. In community and family characteristics, for example, we have information about the ages of families, or the ages of children, and so racial, ethnicity, and language information related to, and single household information related to children in the communities there. All of that information is pulled from the census, which is in this version. You're going to see the most recent version, most recent census available, which is 2023 census information. So one of the things with administrative data, things like census and program information and things, there is going to be a lag. It takes time to gather the data. It takes time to clean the data and make it accessible. Just a reminder, this is a tool that's built on administrative data, so we're generally looking at things from most recent information from 2022 to 2024. And over on the left side, this is where you can sort of customize the view that you see in the map. First, there are different levels of geography. So we have county information, and most everything in Elmo is at least available at the county level. Some things are available at smaller geography levels, like school districts, zip codes, census tracts. So if I pull up zip codes, you can zoom in on different areas of the map and understand at the zip code level some of the information available in the map. You can also add boundaries. So right now you can look at, say, if we want to look at, my gosh, I'm blanking. I can't remember what county Bend is in. Um, I'm going to remind
Shoot.
myself before I go. Deschutes. There we go. Um, we can zoom in on Deschutes County and take a look at the zip codes. And you can see something complicated about geographic information. Some zip codes go outside of county ranges. And I think a lot of you have a sense of the complexities around your own regions in that way. Okay, let me pull back out. Um, Over here, you can also choose to look at multiple pieces of information at once. So I'm going to add a circle layer, and I'm going to bring us back up to county. And by adding a circle layer, you can look at two pieces of information at once. So here, we're looking at the fill layer, these sort of blue and green shades. That's the fill layer. Right now, we're looking at the percent of children ages 0 to 5. In the circle layer, we can look at something different. So let's take a look at some access information. So early care and education program types and capacity. I'm now looking at the circle layer, these purple circles, at the percent of children ages 0 to 5 with access to a childcare slot. So what we're looking at here, if I scroll down to the map itself, is areas that are darker blue are areas that have a higher percentage of children 0 to 5. So of the children under 18, what is the percent of them that are younger children, ages 0 to 5? Those are these darker colors. And then in the circle layer, the bigger the circle, the higher access, the higher percentage of children ages 0 to 5 with access to a childcare slot. So what's fun about being able to look at two pieces of information at once is you can see where there might be different combinations. Maybe there's a place where there's higher percentage of children with a 0 to 5 with a lower percentage of access, and maybe there's a place with a higher percentage of access and a lower percentage of children, and it might allow you to think a bit about what are the conditions in that area, in the county, and the surrounding space that's maybe contributing to this these different levels. Okay. Scrolling all the way down to the bottom, you will see information about the sources of the data that are on the map. So for the census data, there is in the map 2019 data, but what's visible is the most recent. So we're looking at 2023 5-year estimates for the census data. And then the percentage of children with access to a childcare slot comes from the 2024 estimating supply information. Another thing that Elmo allows you to do, I'm going to simplify what we're looking at just a little bit. I'm going to just look at a fill layer. You can take a look at the programs that exist. So I'm going to select the toggle for early care and education providers. And you'll see when we're pulled back, we have these little numbers of different colors. We can, and those are all of the childcare programs from the market price supply study. So December 2024 is when this information is recent to. You can also filter, so we can look at preschool promise providers. We can look at providers by type of care, by center-based, certified family, family-based. There's different ways to play around with the provider level overlay. And if we zoom in, I'm going to zoom in around Deschutes again. You'll see that this might not be the best example. You can find information about the programs here. So these are all I've filtered for preschool promise programs. You can find information about the type of program it is. You can find address. You can find the ages of children served, some more information about the providers in the space there. Okay. So I will bring us back out to the high-level view of the state. And I'll continue the walkthrough by looking at some of the other features beyond the map. And I will say we have a couple of activities coming up that are going to get us back into the map. So if you are newer to your position and haven't seen Elmo before and are feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. We're gonna come back and do a bit more exploration. But what I want to do is look at these other tabs. So the Analyze tab allows you to look at data with some questions in mind. So if you're interested in how things might have changed over time, you can go to the Analyze, then Change Over Time. What we have here is a graph, and at the x-axis, we see time, and then we have a relevant, percentage or number on the left side. And up here, you can choose to look at different pieces of information. So I'm going to look at risk and resiliency factors. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to look at some access stuff. So the percentage of children 0 to 5 with access to a slot, and you'll see that we also have some pieces of information broken out by 0 to 2 and 3 to 5. So I'll go ahead and look at percentage of children ages 0 to 2 with access to a childcare slot. And we can see that over time across the state, we have seen an increase since 2018, which was the first childcare desert report. We can also look at counties or early learning hub regions. And you can take a look at everyone has been on the increase across this time, which is great and makes sense because we've tried to invest in things that are specific to the needs of our infant and toddler family folks. So just to see how you might be able to highlight, you can scroll over to find your hub. I think you can also click on a hub, or not, you can hover over a hub to see that highlighted too. So that's the example of change over time. We also have some information about school readiness and early school success. Here we have something that is designed to answer a question around what communities have high level of community risk and resiliency factors and also show higher than average student test scores. So what that allows folks to do is to find areas that are sort of have a counterintuitive pattern in that there are risk and resiliency, or there's community risk factors, and children on average seem to be doing well when we're looking at things like third grade test scores. So it allows us to think about, well, what's going well in that space? Are there some particular resources or supports in the community that aren't necessarily captured here, but might be able to explain what's going on. So it allows us um, to play around and explore what our communities are bringing. And finally, um, we have access to early learning programs as access to care as a topic. And here you can look at, it's sort of like a short form version of the main map page, in that you can look at some community characteristics. So we'll say the percent of children 0 to 6 living in poverty, and we have different levels of poverty. And we can choose information about um, another access of care question, like percent of children in poverty with access to a publicly funded childcare slot. We got a little redundant there, but so you can choose to look at two things at once again. And there's some guidance on how to read the map, and then you can see if table form is helpful for you. You have the option to look at things in a tabular form on this page as well, to look at the things that you have selected. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to go to the which indicators are available tab. If you're playing around with it and you're looking at all the lists and you're like, wow, there's so much there, this might be a tool for you to get used to what is in the data. So you can select what's available at the county level. You can look at things by category. And I'm going to pull up risk and resiliency factors because this is one that has quite a few. You can get a breakdown of the years different things are available, the names, whether they're available by percent or by number. And you can get a sense of what all you can be thinking about while you're trying to plan your exploration of Elmo. Okay. So I'm going to pause here and see if there are any clarifying questions about the walkthrough that we just did. And then we do have a couple of activities. Oh, it looks like in the chat there, I didn't miss much other than some folks needing to step out, and that's just fine. In that case, I think we're ready to hop over into some of the activities that we have planned. And these are things that are designed to help like get you a bit more deep divey into some examples of how someone might actually use the data.
Oh, there is a question here.
Yes.
Rod is asking, are the early learning programs listed tied to FCO?
By FCO, do you mean FCCO, Find Child
Yeah.
Care Oregon?
Yeah, sorry, I
Yeah,
left out
yeah.
a C.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't assuming about the acronym. So the programs that are included in Elmo are from the from the most recent childcare market price and supply study. And those those programs are in FCCO, but the data is not like linked. So if there is a new program that gets put into FCCO, we're not going to see that in Elmo until it is included in the next market price and supply study. That's the current way the data is held. Renee?
Hey, thanks. I'm wondering if, and maybe it's already starting to be added, I'm not sure, but it would be super helpful to have definitions. The last example that you were showing, one of the drop downs said children 0, and then you said 2 to 6, and then you selected another one that was 0 to 5, and I'm wondering, is it 0 to 5? Is it 0 through 5? so that it's apples to apples. It would just be nice to have that explicitly known, so we know that we're truly comparing the same ages of kids.
That you're looking at. Yeah. I'm
And
gonna
I'm
make,
super excited this is coming back. Woo. Love it.
yay, thank you. Fantastic. And I really appreciate the thoughts about that, and I'll have more to say about some hopefully opportunities to improve Elmo as we go. But I'll save that for the end.
I see some other comments. Rod
Mhm.
is curious. He sees that programs are missing and ones that have closed. Oh, sorry. It's another chat came. He says, I was curious. I see programs missing and the ones that have closed in our region. I'm not trying to be critical. This has to be a nightmare to keep up to date.
Yeah. I think I will say that um I think I'm gonna say weakest, but I feel like that's not quite the right piece. I feel like the provider level information on Elmo, given that it's only updated every 2 years with the current source of information that we have, is one of the weaker points. Weak doesn't quite feel correct, but it is the place where there are going to be the most, like, because it's such a fluid um, space as new programs come up and others sundown. Um, I think that is something I'd love to talk with you all more about, to think about what would be helpful and if there are other tools out there that might be more real time, like FCCO as an example, that might be able to fill that gap a little better than Elmo does at this point. Um,
And there's another one here.
yeah.
Shira, she says, I love this. Great job on this. Is there any way we can drill down on the less than 5? And then Renee added, yes, it would be great to have 0 to 3 and 3 to 5.
Yeah. So that depends on the data point, because for some pieces of information, like are the things related to childcare desert, where we have 0 to 2 and 3 to 5, um, we do have some information to drill down. But there are other pieces of information that Elmo calls on for or from, for example, the census, where we don't have a lot of flexibility in the age ranges available. We do for some pieces, but for language spoken, and we're going to look at um, uh, children who speak a language other than English, we've got 5 to 17. That's the age range that we have for that, because that's what's available in the census. So it's something whenever possible, we do aim to get the nuances, because we're an early learning system and the early ages, it matters for planning for us to understand our families and the communities that we have. And um, we're limited in some capacity.
Can I just clarify? While I agree with Renee's statement that I would love it to have that breakdown, I was really looking at if you are in a county or an area where the number of, let's say, children living in poverty or of a certain ethnicity is less than 5, then you get the less than 5 versus 4 or 3. And I do feel like, and I know there's an anonymity piece to it. And I also think there's a big difference with one child living in that community and 4 living in that community that might qualify when we're talking about uh, spaces, preschool promise spaces, maybe that only have 3 slots. And so
Yeah.
I would really just kind of put in my vote to see that be a little bit more transparent so we could plan well.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. And I know that this is something that we have made improvements on in the past. It originally was less than 10. And we've brought it down to 5 and then less than 5. Um, and we're trying to find the right balance. And I do hear you that we're constantly going to be coming up against that challenge in our small spaces. So I'm going to make note of it again, and I'm excited to hopefully have opportunities in the next year to think more with you all about how to make it really the best that it can be for you all. Um, I'm gonna bring us into the next activity because I want to make sure that we have time to do the activities as well as have some discussion at the back end of our presentation. Um, so, uh, Itzel, if you could go to Elmo, fantastic. Itzel is going to be the hands, and I'm going to be the voice for this one. We are going to do the first activity that we sent, and we sent a handout ahead of time. I'm going to make sure I have my handouts ready to go. The first activity that we're going to do is a visual inspection of Elmo. So this is an activity that's designed to show how Elmo can be used to help understand where priority populations lie within different hub regions. And we know that some hub regions, you have complex priority populations, so things might coexist together. So well, Elmo does not have like individual levels, so we can't say how many people are living in poverty and also have SNAP benefits. We can't get to that individual level. We can at least look at things in the sort of global sense together and see how they relate within or how they coexist within different regions. So Itzel has brought us to the map page. The first, then once we're here, the first step is to go over to the left side of the screen and select county as level of geography. And we're going to toggle on the fill layer, the circle layer, and the boundaries. So we're looking at two things at once. And for the boundary, we're going to select early learning hub regions. And then for the two indicators, we're going to pick something that I'm calling like socially complex families. First, we're going to go to risk and resiliency factors for the fill layer, and we're going to select the children under 18 years old in foster care. So we're looking for foster care, and there's a big list. There it is. Okay, so this is the rate of children under 18 per 1,000 in foster care. This is an example of one where the percent and the numbers doesn't quite work because it's a rate instead of a percent, but we are looking at the rate of children in foster care. And then for the second layer in your handout, it says we're going to select the percent of homeless students. And when Itzel and I were practicing, because this is the sandbox, we discovered that there was a bug and we're going to fix it. So instead of what we have in the handout, we're going to choose the housing assistance. So let's see, we're selecting something different but related. Housing assistance. So the percent of households receiving housing assistance. So we're looking at two things that are, aspects of the community that would be considered, risk resiliency factors. And when we're looking at, yes, that's a good call out, Athena. 1,000 could be far more children than are present in some areas. Yes. And I think for some of our smaller counties that the way that ODE, which owns that data, estimates it, I think they take that into account with the per 1,000, the way they do it. But that's a very important call out. So when we're looking at the darker colors of the fill layer, the deep blues, that means that there is a higher rate of children per 1,000 who are in foster care. And then when we look at the bigger circles, that means there is a higher percentage of families receiving housing assistance. And you might see, if we sort of pan across the counties, there are some places where there are a lower percentage of families within the county receiving housing assistance and maybe a higher comparatively rate of children in foster care. And I think you might see some places where they sort of hang together more or are, in the sort of opposite direction. If we go up to Columbia County, up in the tip to the left itself, there we go. There's Clatsop and then there's Columbia. That's an example where a higher number of households are receiving housing assistance, and they have a lower, mid-low percentage of children of not percentage, rate of children in foster care. Um, yes, I did notice that some don't have dots, and I believe that means that there's not enough information there. Yeah, so less than 4% of the population, I think, is probably it, or it might be that there's less than 5 total in there, so it doesn't show up as active. Um, if we can explore that actually. If in the circle layer you toggle over to the number instead of percent on the far right side of the screen next to housing assistance. Oh, other one. There we go. Yeah, I think that might be that there's not information available for that for the circle. It's like in Harney, we have the red NA for the risk and resiliency factors piece, or for the foster care piece. I think if there's no circle, that means it's NA, but I'm going to double check that and we can see if we can add that to the piece. That's a great question. No dots. NA. Cool. Okay. So that is the first activity. It's designed to see how you might choose to add two variables, to look at them together and maybe zoom in onto your hub and see if that helps you understand, or if you have curiosities about what might be happening in the regions of your hub. Maybe it gives you an opportunity to think, oh, wow, that's strange. Let me go talk to some of the people in that region to try to understand, talk to my partners, talk to the families that lived, try to understand more. So administrative data is a great place to start. And there are other ways to sort of ground the data, the administrative data that you see.
Oh, Lizzie, there's a comment. Chris says, forgive me if you said this. So is the number combined when we combine layers? So are we looking at the number of kids under 18 that are also living in housing assistance?
That's a great question. And no, we don't have for that to happen, we would have to have like individual level information, and none of the information in Elmo is to the level of the individual where we have information about people who experience both things. But what we do have is globally, we know that there's a high, or, we know what the level of one is and we know what the level of the other is, and we can see patterns in that. So it is not It is not that magical, all-knowing thing that's going to be able to blend these different pieces of information together at the individual level. Um, but it is a way for us to begin sort of wondering, like, oh, I wonder, this is high and high. Are these things related? Are the experiences of the people in our communities related in a way that we can learn more about by going into our community? So the balance of administrative data. All right. And we have one more activity, and I want to make sure that we get to it because it is how you are able to download the data from Elmo, which is really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to reset ourselves. Thanks, Itzel. Cool. So we're back to the starting map page. And we're going to start in a somewhat similar way. We're going to go over to the left side of the screen and toggle on, make sure the fill layer and the boundary layer are toggled on. And we're going to set the geography to zip codes. Yes, sorry, I jumped that step. It's all, there we go. Our boundary, we're going to select early learning hubs again. And up at the top of the screen, we're going to select just one indicator this time. We're going to look at community and family characteristics. And then in the specific measure, we're going to select percentage of children 5 to 17 whose primary language is not English. Cool. So this is an example of something that we have at the zip code level. And you can maybe zoom in on your hub region and see how, looking at Deschutes again, see how areas of your region might have higher concentrated populations of children who speak a language other than English than others. And we know there's limitations to zip code because there's limitations in strength to zip codes in that some zip codes don't really have people in them. So you can zoom in and you can explore. And then an additional thing that you can do is download the data. So if we go over to the right side and click Download Data on Map at the bottom of the left menu, you can select zip codes, and then let's go ahead and select Early Learning Hub regions as the geography, and then you can choose your hub. So let's go ahead and pick Blue Mountain there at the top. And then you have a choice of how much data do you want. If you select that, you can look at all the information for that geography. And you can also look at the current selection on the map. So we're going to do current selection on map just to keep our blinders on a little bit and not get overwhelmed. The next step is to agree to the terms and conditions. And they're simple. And then you can select download data on map. You can also download childcare provider information, but we want to download the data on the map. And then that will download for you. You can open it up. There we go. And you can see, ooh, yes, thank you for that, Rod. Just an FYI, the Eastern Oregon Early Learning Hub is listed as the Eastern Oregon Community-Based Services. We can make sure all the hub names are up to date. So what you receive is the community ID. You receive the data that was on the map. Community ID is the zip code. And then the measure name for each of the zip codes is the um, number or the percent of children whose primary language is not English. And then you have the estimated percent and the estimated number. And then county information, since this was a hub region, it has county, like multiple counties in there. And then you have some information about the source of the data, which was the ACS, this is 2023, or yeah, 2023 5-year estimates. Yay, thank you for all the hub name up-to-date or updates. I appreciate it. And Eastern Oregon. Okay. So that is the activity that we have, the second activity. I do want to share one little Easter egg, and it is kind of an Easter egg in the map. So Itzel, if you could go back to the map, fantastic. If you could change the level of geography to early learning hub regions. Um, Early Learning Hub regions and CCR&R regions have something that's special. It only shows up for you all because county level is too small even. So it's all if you go over to select a category at the top of the screen, like you were choosing yeah, thank you. And you scroll down past the main things. We have information from the 2022, late 20 or early 2023 household survey. So this was a big survey that went out to families with young children in Oregon. And yay, thank you. Thank you, Danny. Since we are editing, it has always been the early learning hub of Clackamas County, and it's something else, I'm sure, in the thing. I really appreciate the clarification, everybody. Back to the household survey. We have some information gathered at the hub and CCR&R level from families who participated in the statewide household survey at the end of 2022 around their experiences accessing childcare and other services, aspects of childcare that do not work for families, barriers to finding childcare, current type of childcare. And those are things that are available for all of the respondents in the hub regions and also broken out by race, ethnicity. So this is something I say it's an Easter egg because it doesn't show up if you're looking at it for county level or lower, but if you look at it for early learning hub regions, it becomes available. And I think that's quite fun to dive into. And that is from our most recent statewide household survey. And this is probably a good time to mention that there are some Elmo related activities that we have submitted in our in an updated grant proposal, a federal grant proposal that would allow us to have some funds to do things like do an updated household survey, statewide household survey. That would mean that we're looking at, in Elmo, we'd be looking at more up-to-date information. So fingers crossed that goes through, but we won't know about that until the end of the year. Okay. So Itzel, if you want to pull out or just, I think maybe stop sharing so we can look at all the faces. So that is the high level walkthrough, and I'd love to think about, I'd love to take a look at the list of questions that you all sent me and do just a little quick go through to see if there's anything that I missed. I think one of the questions that came up, and Nancy brought it up before the meeting to me, is this still being done by PSU? Is this still a Portland State University partnership project? And the answer is no. This is the first data update that Delk has owned. Delk is now owning the update and the maintenance of Elmo, and I think there's learning curves that come with that. But this update that will go live before the end of the year is our first Delk owned update. I saw that there were questions that I tried to answer along the way. How often will the information be updated? The goal is for this to be updated once a year. So it'll be updated likely in the latter half of the year. So around this time every year moving forward, that is our plan. We are, I will say, looking forward to a legislative session with cuts that we are thinking about at the state level. And I don't think that Elmo is going to be there, but I'm just acknowledging the context. But our goal is to have this be updated every year. So what information data is utilized for Elmo? I hinted, or I shared some of this information. Census data is involved. Our market price and supply study is involved. Workforce study through our Oregon Child Care Research Partnership is involved. Household survey information, statewide household survey information is involved. A lot of publicly available data for risk and resiliencies from like public facing reports from other sectors are involved. It's a lot, but the data comes from a lot of different sources all brought together. And thank you, everybody. It's always been really fantastic as well in this, as well as January advisors and PSU for helping to build it. We did answer some questions around the small numbers, around breaking down 0 to 3, 3 to 5 when possible. The provider level data does allow you to sort by center-based programs, Head Start programs, things of that nature. I did see that there was an idea of having like different icons for the different kinds. I think that's really cool and something that we can be thinking about. I think that including Elmo on the Hub web page is a fantastic idea, and I can coordinate with Nancy and Maria to make sure that happens. And yeah, it can feel buried, I think. The point of contact, you're more than welcome to email me directly. Itzel and I have our emails at the bottom of the handouts, and I think at the end of the presentation as well, the slides. And you can also email the RAD office email in the FAQs on the front page. It'll all come to me eventually. There were some questions about browser that best supports Elmo. I haven't found an issue. I use Firefox. Itzel, I think, was using Edge and then maybe Chrome. I haven't run into any issues that are browser based. So if you happen to run into one, please let me know so we can develop some best practices, but we haven't run into any of those. Okay. Lastly, I know I feel just like I'm just still talking, but lastly, I want to share another activity that is proposed in this grant that we have applied for. We don't know if we're going to get it, but one of those is for the next year to hopefully engage with you all to think about some of these, like the feedback that you've been providing around maybe some design ideas, around some of the data questions that you have. We are hoping to be able to have some discussions and listening sessions with you all to think about how we can plan to revamp Elmo to um, make sure that it is built in the way that really serves your needs and is relevant to your work. And that's something that I really hope that we can do because Elmo was originally designed back in, 2020, and it takes a lot of work to maintain. So our focus has been on maintaining it. And I think there's opportunities to improve so that it becomes a really useful and relevant tool for you all. So I hope very much that I will be seeing you all again in some way, shape, or form to help think about how to make the tool better. Um, and that's on our minds. So hopefully that funding goes through. And I think that's all that I needed to say.
I just wanted to see if anyone had any other lingering questions that they want to ask Isel or Lizzie while we've got them here. Rod, oh, I see clapping for Rod. I thought it was a hand. Well, the clapping is a great way to end this session. This was such a wonderful tutorial. Elmo is just a really critical tool for hubs, and it's exciting that it's getting a lot of attention right now. And fingers crossed that those listening sessions with hub directors will come through. Thank you again so much, and look forward to seeing you again in this space.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. That was so great. I learned a lot. Um, we can pivot now to a handful of slides that Maria and I have to just provide some updates since the kickoff meeting. So, Karina, if you could load that, thank you.
Great. I think we were going to get started with just giving a little overview of the portal. I know with so many new deliverables and resources, we've made some updates, and thank you to those who submitted some feedback as well. I did look to try to implement what I could, and I'm going to drop the link in here for the portal, and I will also share my screen just to give a quick overview of what we have going. Give me just one sec. Perfect. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. Great. So up here, you'll just see the beginning of it. We did list our grant cycles just as a reminder of where we are at. And if you ever need that little reminder of when does the next cycle start for this biennium, knowing that we broke it up and there was a lot of discussion throughout of what the timing would be, we just thought a little reminder would be helpful. And as we start here at the top, we are going to look to list upcoming dates and key dates that for things that are coming up for you all. So you will see the dates for the Hub Director meetings, the peer learning, and then any deliverables that are coming up due, we will have here in the upcoming dates. And then next we have the action items. Here is where we'll list things like the exit survey. When we have those sign up sheets that we need you all to do, we're going to be listing them here. And so this will just be continued to be updated as well. And this is just kind of just if you just have a quick second to check the portal, we want you to be able to just click here and get what you need. Share with us. Here we have two different feedback forms. One is actually a content submission form where if you have a story for your hub, a success story, something that you would like to highlight, we really encourage you to submit something for your region. And this actually links you to a form from our communications team, and they would love to just lift up the stories and things that are happening in your region. So that's what this one is. And then the hub feedback form, here's where you can give us anything that is just kind of lingering. It comes to Nancy and I, and We loop in the folks who are needed to. So if it's something fiscal, we'll loop in Carla. If it's something that we need to elevate to leadership, we will do that. But here you can find those pieces as well as where you can continue to submit feedback for the grant manual and as well as the portals. So any feedback that you have around anything that you think is missing or just anything in general, feel free to use this hub feedback form. And then here we have our most recent Hub Director meeting. Now, this one's from October because we kept our November meeting a little more private given the nature of the conversation. But typically, when it's a meeting, we will just have them here as well. And it'll just be from our Delk YouTube page. So that's that piece. Here is the Hub quarterly report. And so you will find the link to the actual smart sheet. Here you'll have the recording for the office hours and then the Q&A that we have received from the quarterly report. Next, this is a new section, but we made deliverables. We thought it would be helpful to have an area where you can just find the links to all the various deliverables. So we have the document that Carla created for us with all of the deadlines at a glance, and followed by the Hub annual report document that we're going to go over in just a bit. We will have the Hub governance roster template, and then the Early Learning Hub key contact update form. So that one is the one where if there is a shift in your Hub, a new governance council chair, new staff, any sort of transition in that way, it is this form. I'll stop there. I see, Rod, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember because there's been a lot of changes, but so the link to the new quarterly report smart sheet, do we use that to upload our new fiscal template? Or is there a different link? I'm just trying to remember what goes where.
Yeah, maybe I can clarify here. So this one's going to be for our narrative quarterly report. For
Right.
those other ones to upload, like the various ones are going to be over here in fiscal with the Hub Smartsheet form. But that's a great clarifying piece, Rod. I can make that a little bit more clear.
Thank you. I just needed to wait a little longer.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
I'm not patient.
Yeah, that's totally fine. So yeah, we can move over here to fiscal. We have a couple of links. So we have the link to AMS, the training guides and videos, and then the Smartsheet form where you will upload basically everything but that quarterly report, the narrative quarterly report. Here we have some resources as well here in the middle. So this is where you can find the reference copy of the grant for the 25-26. For our current cycle, we have the grant manual, and then we have the newsletters, and we have the planning document for caring communities tour, and just a couple other items. Here we have the hub reports over here on the side, and this is where we will continue to just update the various reports that we're working on or just guiding documents. So we have the work from Build that we did, the roles all hub share, future forward, the getting aligned. We have the 2024 Title 4B2 report, and we'll just continue to add to that as we have more documents. We have the early literacy section. So this is just a reminder with the email to the literacy team, their booking page, and then here is a link for their office hours and just a little bit more information there. Over here on this side, we have some more folders where this is where I try to consolidate so many links that there's a lot of information to get to you all, but trying to consolidate, and we'll continue to work on that. But we have the peer learning folder. We have the Hub kickoff meeting folder where you can find the recordings and the slides for that one here. We have an early literacy folder here. And then we have the Hub directory and the Delk org charts here as well. And then here, the monthly meeting materials where you'll find it by month. This still needs to be updated a little bit, but we're going to get to work on that piece. You'll find that here as well. And then we have the Hub rulemaking section here. So you'll find the final Early Learning Hub rule set here. And then we'll go over this in just a bit as well. But we have the FAQ, the Early Learning Hub rules implementation questions that you can find here. And again, you can feel free to share this with your governance or any other interested parties. And then here is where you would find the link to the form if you need to ask for an exception on any of the rules. And so it'll just take you to the Smartsheet link where you can do that. And then here is where you can also find this rules implementation questions form. If you have other questions, this is where you can find that as well. And then just the Delc rulemaking webpage. And then down here, last but not least, is just our contact info. I think most of you have all of our information, but if you ever need to have a reminder, we just have it down here. So we know it's a lot, but we're working on, and we just want to have a place where you can just really land here and make sure that you can just get all of your information. And we are working with the limitations within Smartsheet. So I know that sometimes it would be nice if there was drop downs or things like that, but we do have to work within the constraints of what Smartsheet offers, but always looking for ways to make this better for you all. Any questions on the portal? Great. Oh, thanks for that. We love that you guys love the portal. I think that you guys just have to hold so much info, so we're glad it's useful.
Okay, just some updates next on the quarterly report. First of all, the testing is complete. I want to thank Rod and Athena for submitting their quarter 4 form on the new Smartsheet. So that helped us refine the report template. And because of that, we now have a final form. And we put the link in here, and Maria just noted that it's living on the portal. We are in the very final stages of posting a reference document that has all of the quarterly report questions. So you know that if you click one particular thing, it might create a comment box or another requirement. So we want to make sure that you and your team members are aware of all of the questions in one document. So that will be posted shortly. The first quarterly report that will need to be submitted on this new Smartsheet is for Q1 2026, and that's due February 27th, 2026. And just a reminder that there are no more extension requests. They're either on time or late. And then another piece that we're excited about is the opportunity to see the dynamic view, or like the backside of your submissions. So what happens is after you've submitted an initiative on the Smartsheet, you'll get, first you'll get this prompt that says, you can submit another initiative, and then they give you the link so it's easy to continue on. But then it also shares, if you would like to review your submissions or edit them, you've got a dynamic view link. And here's the link. We don't yet have it set up by email for all of the hubs, but that will be happening in the month of December. It should be ready for viewing in January. And so the way this is going to work is you will always have view access, so you can see, past submissions. That's just a great way to share with with others on the hub what was submitted, and just to help you remember, what was submitted in the past. And then you will also have edit access for 30 days after the quarterly report deadline. So that means if you need to make a change, you can just go into that dynamic back-end view and make that change. And we're going to keep that open for 30 days. There are a little bit more directions here about needing to be logged into Smartsheet to get that dynamic view. And there's also an opportunity to share your feedback on the quarterly report. If you think that you're not finding a place in the report for the initiative, or you have questions about it, there is a smart sheet within a smart sheet to provide any of that feedback. And again, we're just always wanting to keep that feedback loop going. I just want to give a big shout out to Dylan in the RAD office, who just has done such an amazing job with developing this smart sheet and just thinking through all the pieces. Are there any questions about the quarterly report? All right. Next is the annual report. This is going to be we're asking folks to submit that by November 30th, 2026. So that's it will be kind of a look back for this grant agreement. And you'll be using a Delc template on a smart sheet that's in development. And for the first year, the questions will be primarily reflective questions, asking you to just think about successes, barriers, needs. But for Grant Agreement 2, we're going to be asking for more outcomes related questions and asking you to explore the impact of some of your initiatives. So we haven't developed those yet. That's sort of beginning stages. We've also developed a reference document like the one for the quarterly report that lists all of the reflection questions that you'll be asked. So that's something that Maria just posted. Thank you, Maria, just dropped in the chat. And you'll see the questions here, and we will continue to bring up the annual report in future monthly meetings. And again, as a reminder, it'll be on Delc to roll up the quarterly reports into one section of the annual report, and then the other piece will be your reflection questions. Any questions about the annual report? Okay, next slide. So this is just a reminder that we are requiring that any sub-agreements that are valued at or over 15,000 will need to receive approval from Carla or her proxy. And to do that, we are asking you to fill out a sub-agreement approval request. This can be found in the same place where you upload your expenditure report. So on the fiscal side of the portal that Maria was just sharing. It's part of a drop down. So you would just go to the drop down, you would fill this out and then upload the sub-agreement, and then Carla will get back to you with a response within 3 business days. We've mentioned before that for those of you that had sub-agreements at 15,000 or more, before this was announced, we asked that you retroactively request approval for those by December 1. So if you haven't done that, please do so as soon as possible. And then going forward, as you have these sub-agreements, please continue to submit these. And I'll pass it along to Maria.
Thanks, Nancy. So the grant manual, thank you so much, everyone who submitted feedback for that. And we are really excited that we have a grant manual to share with you all, but we are currently reviewing the feedback right now, and we are going to be making some edits. And so we will alert you when we have a final version posted. And just a reminder that this is an iterative process, and we are going to be really making sure that as we think of new things, or you all think of new things, we really want to make sure that we are folding that into the grant manual. So please continue to provide that feedback. Again, you can do that via the Hub feedback form, which is on the portal. And so more to come soon for the grant manual, but thank you to everyone who submitted feedback. And we've heard from a lot of you that it's been helpful already. So really thrilled about that. Shira, did I see your hand up?
Hi, you did. It was, I wasn't fast enough.
We can take
My
time.
brain was still on the previous slide.
Yeah, that's we can go
Um,
back. No problem.
which was about the sub-agreements and the 15,000 and the deadline of 12/1, which was yesterday. And so, um, if we didn't do that by yesterday, I mean, do we just send an email to Carla or,
Yeah, you can just go ahead and use the link and submit them as soon as possible.
okay,
So if there were any that you still had that were from before times, I'll call it. Yeah, go ahead and just get them in and I'll review them. And then I've been sending an email out for each individual one that you submit. You'll get an email back from me. That way you have it for your records as well.
okay. And so, and this is starting from ever ago or
No,
like,
for starting this agreement. So any agreements that
oh,
you had
okay,
starting October 1st, some people submitted some from
okay.
July 1st, since we totally understand that a lot of the hubs work off of fiscal years
I
in
see,
their
okay,
agreement, sub-agreement. So July 1st ones were also fine as long as they're going into this agreement cycle. But technically it was for anything from the start of the new agreement.
okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Next, I wanted to go over the rules implementation questions and the FAQ that we developed from all of the questions that we had received along the way as you all were looking to implement the rules, the new rules. I will drop this in the chat. And so from that, we developed and got some answers for some of your most common questions. Um, it's a pretty hefty document. You can feel free to go through all of it. But I did want to go over just a couple who that we had thought that it would be good to kind of go over. So as you go there on page 2, there was a question, is the hub director required to be a member of the Hub Governance Council as a voting member? And then what is meant by the hub director being a liaison. So the rules state that the hub director is a member of the governance council and plays a vital role as a liaison. The term liaison reflects the hub director's role in facilitating communication and coordination between the hub, the backbone entity, and the governance council. The rules do not specify whether the hub director is a voting member. This decision is left to each governance council in alignment with its bylaws. So I think something that you'll know as you see a lot of our answers, we really do want to be able to have you all lean on your governance council and be able to account for those regional differences. And so unless it is explicitly stated in rule, oftentimes we will say, have you brought this to your governance council? What did your governance council think? How did that go in your bylaws? But as you continue to have questions, please know that we're open, and that form that we have on the portal where you can submit your questions, that will be open until the 12/31. And please continue to have them go through there, and it'll be in the next version of our FAQ. And so I think that'll just be a really good way for us to just have an understanding of what questions are coming up for everyone. Another question that we had was are there term limits for parent participation in family leadership councils or governing boards? And then our answer was the rules do not establish term limits for parent participation on family leadership councils or governing boards. It is the responsibility of each governance council to define this as needed in alignment with their governance structure and bylaws. A question right after that, is there a limit on the number of parents able to participate in governing boards or family leadership councils? And again, we said the rules do not set a cap on the number of parents who may participate. There is a requirement of at least one parent on the governance council. And after that, does a parent representative on the governance council have to be a parent from the family leadership council? And so we stated Hub should first seek parent representatives from their family leadership council. If parents serving on that council are not available or interested, Hubs may then identify another parent who can fulfill that role. So some questions around that piece, but as you have other ones, please feel free to come with the form. And then there was a question, how will an early learning hub note a representative on the governance council is from a priority population? A governance council roster template is being developed, which this was prior to us developing this, so it is developed and on the portal. And you will be required to complete as outlined in the grant agreement with DELG. This roster will include space to note the full composition of the governance council, including representatives from priority populations. This will provide a consistent way to document and track membership across all hubs. Hubs and their governance councils will not be required to specify which priority population an individual represents. We heard some feedback that sometimes a priority population might be from a sensitive group, that they might not want to indicate that they're from that priority population. So we are not going to be asking for that. We're just going to just have you indicate that they are a member of your governance council from the priority population, and that's it. And you will not need to indicate which one. Let's see, there was a question down on page 5. Should the backbone entity share Dell communications such as memos, audit findings, corrective actions with the governance council? And our answer was yes. DELC expects the backbone entity and hub director to inform governance council of documents such as memos, audit findings, and corrective and actions. I think as we really look to lean on our governance councils and really realizing that they are the core of the hub and they really do need to be informed, we really decided that having them be in the loop on those pieces was really crucial for them to just be in the know of what's happening with the hub. I think those are the ones that we highlighted, but there are a couple more questions on there. Feel free to take a look. If there's something that needs a little bit more clarity, again, feel free to reach out and we're happy to continue to work on that. Let's see. Next, I wanted to talk about our spring gathering, which we are really, really excited about. So again, this is going to be in Pendleton, Oregon. It's going to be April 29th and 30th. And we are just reminding folks that attendance is an expectation for hub directors. And this is a space that we are gearing towards hub directors. So if there is any situation that you're needing, that you already know that you have a conflict on your calendar and you're needing to send someone on your behalf, we would love to talk through that because we really do want it to be for hub directors, but we know that some folks are in transition or might be needing to have some sort of accommodation made, but that'll just really be on a case by case basis. And so please feel free to reach out to Nancy and I, and we can talk through that. And this is going to be an in-person gathering, and we're not going to have a hybrid or virtual option available. So we really just ask that you really try to mark this time on the calendar to just be in space with us. And we are actively working on thinking of the agenda and really leaning on the feedback that we've received from you all along the way. And we're really excited about this. And just a huge thank you to the Blue Mountain team with Marissa and Laura, who have really been just helping us get some details together as well and recommendations. So more to come, and we're just really, really excited. And thank you for your patience as we took a hiatus for quite a while, but we're just really excited to be back with this. Any questions on that or anything? Do we book our own accommodations? Yes, we would. I think we are actively working to see if we can get a hotel block for just a couple spaces, and we'll be sharing some more of that out as well. But yes, we would be asking everyone to book their own accommodations for this.
With that, I think we have a wrap. We're going to give you almost 30 minutes back, but we would love for you to complete our exit survey. I actually don't have oh, Maria put the link in there. Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll be sending a recap email with the details. Thank you so much for your engagement. It's so great to see you all and connect with you. And we look forward to our next meeting in January. Thank you. Maria and I will stick around for a minute, and Carla too, if you can, Carla, if anyone has any specific questions.